अपि तथा चक्रे विरंचोपि तथा चक्रे दिव्यं वर्षशतं तपः दिव्यं वर्षशतं तपः आत्मनि आत्मानम् आवेश्य आत्मनि आत्मानम् आवेश्य यथा आह भगवान् अजः यथाह भगवान् अजः मैत्रेय उवाच विरुञ्चोऽपि तथा चक्रे दिव्यं वर्षशतं तपः आत्मनि आत्मानमावेश्य यथाह भगवान् अजः मैत्रेय उवाच विरुञ्चोऽपि तथा चक्रे दिव्यं वर्षशतं तपः आत्मनि आत्मानमावेश्य यथाह भगवान् अजः Maitreya uvacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Virinchaha Brahmā api also tatha in that manner chakre perform divyam celestial varshashatam 100 years tapaha penances atmani unto the Lord atmanam his own self aveshya engaging yatha aha as it was spoken Bhagavan the personality of Godhead ajaha the unborn. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swamy Prabhupada. Translation. The greatly learned sage Maitreya said, O Vidura, Brahmā thus engaged himself in penances for 100 celestial years as advised by the personality of Godhead and applied himself in devotional service to the Lord. Please repeat. The greatly learned sage Maitreya said, O Vidura, Brahmā thus engaged himself in penances for 100 celestial years as advised by the personality of Godhead and applied himself in devotional service to the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. That Brahmā engaged himself for the personality of Godhead Narayana means that he engaged himself in the service of the Lord. That is the highest penance one can perform for any number of years. There is no retirement from such service, which is eternal and ever encouraging. Dasanastha Bhaktivedanta Parpoto Madhyanatimirand Dhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Bravani Pracharine विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So here we again see Maitreya Rishi explaining to Vidura. The conversation has come back to Vidura and Maitreya. In the last verse briefly we went to Sutta Goswami. So here he is explaining that Brahma, he receives the advice from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then he engages himself in penances for 100 celestial years. Varsha Satam, that means 100 years, but they are not our 100 years, they are Divyam, they are celestial years. Divyam Varsha Shatam Tapaha, he has rendered tapas, penances. So this world has come from the penance of Brahma, and that is the tapashakti of the Lord. So the world is created from the tapashakti, and particularly the tapas which is a service to the Lord, that is considered the highest tapas. Fasting and many other things may be there. People are doing a lot of tapas, or even working hard in their day-to-day life. But the real tapas is serving the Lord according to His instructions. Yatha aha Bhagavan. Bhagavan Krishna has explained how it has to be done. And so, yatha Bhagavan ajaha. He himself is unborn. Lord is unborn. Who is born? Brahma is born. So the unborn is teaching the born. Just born is teaching. So, how to do this tapas, that's also explained. And whom to be offered, that is also been explained. In the beginning slokas we have seen all this. So that's why now Brahma decided to practice. So when we hear something that is at the knowledge, theoretical stage, but it has to come out as an action. So initially when we hear something that is certainly a transcendental knowledge, that means there is no need to again evaluate that knowledge. There is no need to calculate whether this is correct or not. So this is the first stage. With faith, with surrender, we should approach the spiritual master or his book and then receive the transcendental knowledge. And a devotee, he knows that this is coming from the Supreme Lord himself. So there is nothing to evaluate or estimate whether this is correct or not correct. So he accepts that knowledge as completely true, and he accepts it without any hesitation. This is the method of receiving knowledge. Very humbly, with surrenderance, we receive the knowledge as it is, without any challenging mood. Jai Radha Govinda. And once we receive the knowledge, we want to apply that knowledge. We want to, utilize that knowledge in order to improve our consciousness. This knowledge is meant for improving our consciousness. improving our sensitivity. Consciousness means, that awareness, sensitivity. But what kind of a consciousness we want to improve? Some people are very sensitive about cold. Some people are very sensitive about heat. Some people are very sensitive about, so many sensitivities are there. Cockroaches, this and that. But here, we want to improve consciousness of Krishna. That's why this is called transcendental knowledge. So through knowledge, what happens? You become sensitive, you become aware of Krishna's presence. Since Krishna is already there, Krishna's presence is already there, but we are not aware. We are insensitive now to Krishna. So that's why knowledge is only a beginning. And then through that knowledge you will come to know, oh, Lord is present like this. For example, before we don't know that there is Lord in the heart, we have no idea. But after hearing from Shastra, after hearing from Prabhupada, we understood, oh, there is a Lord in the heart. But we may not be able to perceive His form, but we start becoming aware of His presence. How is that? Krishna explains how His presence can be experienced. He says, Matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha. Now this is transcendental knowledge. Matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha. From me comes the remembrance. Smriti means remembrance. Apohanam, forgetfulness also comes from. Now next time whenever a devotee remembers Krishna, remembers something, yes, my Lord has given me this. This is called consciousness of Krishna. In our day-to-day activities, how I can perceive Krishna and then how I can become His devotee. This is the purpose of this knowledge. So that's why here we see Brahmā, he heard this transcendental knowledge. Of course, he is the first personality in the universe, extremely fortunate to see the Lord face to face. He is in front of the Lord. He has no calculations inside to figure out Lord and His presence, and directly he is there. See, that is Brahma's position. So here he decided to apply himself. Here is in the translation you can see, he applied himself in devotional service. So that knowledge should be applied to recognize the presence of the Lord and then render service to Him. Ultimately, our knowledge, our learning, our scholarship should result in transcendental service to Krishna. It should not remain at a scholarly level, but it should go beyond all this and then result in service, devotional service to Krishna. And what is this devotional service? Of course, many times we have discussed. Bhagavatam quotes one of the Mahajanas. There are 12 Mahajanas. One of the Mahajana is Prahlad Maharaj. And that shloka where he says, Shavanam Kirtanam Vishnu, those Nava, they are the devotional services to Krishna. Any time when you hear devotional service, you should know this is referring to those 9 kinds of devotional services, 9 types of devotional services to Krishna. Shavanam Kirtanam is the primary devotional service to Krishna. Just by hearing about Him and then again repeating, that itself is considered by the Lord as a service. Krishna considers that as a service to Him. Just by hearing either Bhagavatam or any of those transcendental literature, hearing about Krishna, that is very important. So that Krishna accepts as a very dear service. And then if you preach or you do kirtana, that is also very pleasing to the Lord. So like that, there are 9. In that Archana is also there, what we are doing. So Prabhupada has given all these services. he has nicely, what do you say? I'm using the word package. He nicely packaged all these powerful devotional potencies, devotional services in our morning program, in our day-to-day life, so that we are in the midst of a powerful internal energy, devotional energy of the Lord. So here, Brahma is not only just heard, but he also applied. Now, application is an important aspect. Prabhupada says for any science, in any scientific field, if you want to advance, theory is only a first stage. One has to do practicals. He gives the example of, say, physics or chemistry. We heard the theory in the class, and then we have to walk into the lab and then mix some chemicals ourselves. You have to measure the liquids. You see the colors, and you mix, and you're watching how the effervescence are coming, how it is forming into a new liquid, a new substance. See, that experience is different from what you heard in the class about, okay, you mix H2 plus O2, you will get something. So theory, chemical theory, and then practical, both put together gives you the complete experience of a science, complete experience of a certain field. It comes only by a combination of these two. So a devotee, when he hears, because here Brahma is saying, Prabhupada is saying, and the purpose advised by Personality of Godhead. Krishna, he has given his advice, his directions, his instructions. So many things he gave in Bhagavad Gita. And then in the end he tells Arjuna that now I have told you whatever is needed to be told. Now it's up to you. So this is the mood, this is the nature of Krishna. Supreme Lord, ultimately he leaves it to you. He may tell so many things, but how seriously you take, how seriously you want to implement, that is your own personal will, a personal decision to implement. So that's why there is a work involved. So as soon as you hear something, now there is a work involved inside. There is a digestive process inside. You have to understand this and then contemplate how to turn that into an action, how to turn that into a nice word. Our vacha, first mind will change by your contemplation, then vacha, from your mouth it will come, and then there is a karmana. By your gross senses, by this body, you actually implement, apply that knowledge. This is a very important process inside. It has to happen. In Sanskrit it is called manana, contemplation basically. How do I put it into practice? How can I perceive Krishna? How can I do this way? How can I do that way? This is the manana. Or even the same sentences of Prabhupada, as it is you are trying to remember, as they are, those same sentences, you are trying to mug it up or memorize, that's also good. In fact, devotees should memorize Bhagavad Gita shlokas, Shastric shlokas. So that is one level of contemplation on the knowledge, and slowly this knowledge builds up. Your contemplation will lead to more and more increased action. Devotional service will become more and more encouraging. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. There is no retirement from such service, which is eternal and ever encouraging. Devotee becomes encouraged. Yes, today I want to do this. One more. They are not satisfied. For example, now in our this thing, we're announcing more and more temples. Say Bangalore, and has announced another 2-3 temples. We're announcing one more temple. Actually, the other day in the TP body meeting, all the temple presidents have come, and then we were asking each temple, okay, what are you doing? Everybody, so many things are coming up. Every place they have temple projects, preaching projects, other projects, so many projects. Why? Because they are encouraged. No devotee wants to sit quiet. Whoever is chanting 16 rounds, and if the sound gone inside little bit, he cannot sit quiet. So I want to do something. So that's why here it is said, ever encouraging this knowledge is ever encouraging. So that manana has to happen, contemplation. Okay, particularly with respect to how do I implement this. One care we have to take is that not all instructions of Prabhupada, whatever we read in Prabhupada books, is not, straight away we will not be able to implement. Some things are for ready consumption, and some things will take time. Any instruction you see, you may get clarity in the mind. Immediately you should not think, okay, now I have to, at that level I have to behave, or at that level I have to measure everybody. Generally what we will see, we get some clarity and we start seeing everybody with that lens. Highest level of whatever we expect others to follow, but actually whereas our own situation is, we are not at that level. So you should know what instructions to immediately consume. Prabhupada gave instructions from basic things of sadhana to he has described the pastimes of Krishna, Rasalila and all that. Obviously, we are not in a position to, enter into Rasalila. We are now, we are merged in Maya, and then we are in the process of coming out of that Maya, and then becoming little stronger in our devotional service. So, one has to, that's why it requires a spiritual master's guidance. One has to approach Guru or the senior devotees, authorities, and then discuss how to implement. As I said, we should not evaluate. Should I approach and this and that? This is the system Prabhupada has given. There is nothing for you to evaluate and estimate whether he is okay or he is not. Just approach the system and then take help. Understand what exactly we have to implement. At this moment, can I take up this, can I take up that? Like that, in a devotee association, we can safely grow in our devotional service. And so that's why Prabhupada is saying here, that is the highest penance. What is the penance here? You have to approach someone and get clarity. You have to actually implement. That requires a lot of internal churning and this and that. Questions will come, that's so questions will come. Sometimes why we don't get questions? Because we have no plan for implementation. We are happy with mental clarity, or intellectual clarity, or shloka level clarity. We are happy with that. We don't actually, next step if you think, how do I do this? Then comes questions, okay, here this, next step is what, next step is what? Okay, so devotee's contemplation with respect to giving a practical shape, that will give you a lot of questions. How can I see Krishna like this in my day-to-day life? That will give you questions. Then devotee is completely absorbed in those knowledge. How to get clarity, how to improve myself. This is the mood of a devotee. And what is the goal? Ultimately, devotional service. And Prabhupada says one more thing, no retirement from this devotional service. One thing we have to know, see the way Brahmā did devotional service and the way we are able to do services, there is some differences there. Brahmā is the first person. Apparently there is nobody there. He created a team and then but when we are doing devotional service here, we are part of a team already. There is a community, there are community dynamics. Krishna, he says that parasparam bhavayantaha. In this material world, the principle of existence is that there has to be parasparam cooperation. cooperate with each other. So devotees have to learn this important principle in order to do services. So, and since there is no retirement from service, somebody cannot say, this is all big problematic, I will do alone, my own service, this and that. So Krishna here, Prabhupada is saying there is no retirement from this service. So one place Rameshwar was explaining, with this I will conclude. In 1974, I was reporting to Balimardhan and to Prabhupada, as there were some issues at that time where I did not feel comfortable with the requests that I was getting out of our New York branch of BBT. He is not comfortable. It got to such a discomfort level that I wrote a letter to Prabhupada stating that I couldn't follow the orders I was getting. I knew that it was my duty to follow these directions, but I told Prabhupada that I thought they would negatively affect BBT money and that I would have to resign. I didn't realize that some other senior devotees had written to Prabhupada and were discussing this situation. Prabhupada wrote back saying, "We will discuss your situation at the Mayapur festival in 75, but I hope by then that you will come to your sound condition of mind, because this request to resign is insane." And Prabhupada wrote, "There is no such thing in spiritual life as resignation. Once having surrendered, it can never be withdrawn. Once surrendered, no withdrawn, no retirement." Rameshwar is saying, I will never forget these words. Only one other time did I fail to follow that statement, to my regret. Since that time, my great regret, once I could not follow. Since that time, by Prabhupada's mercy, I have been slightly reawakened from my comatose condition, and I am now able to pray that he will let me serve him again. Now I am trying to repent. I fully regret it, and I am begging for him to let me come back and serve him again. But that is the order. Once having surrendered, it can never be withdrawn. This is from a memory of Rama. So that's what Prabhupada is saying here. There is nothing called resignation, there is nothing called retirement. And then there is no retirement, no resignation. So we all have to be together. We all have to see each other. We all have to render services together. So as a family of Vaishnavas, we should cooperate, ensure that our services to Guru and Krishna are unhampered, and then finally the spiritual master is pleased with us. That should be our goal. Any questions? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణవాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణవాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 9133107700. హరే కృష్ణ